So our next group of our next presentation is going to be a panel discussion. Please ask questions. I know Abby's. I saw some dialogue going on in the chat box. This group is very interested in hearing from you. We have a talented group of folks. I'm going to go through them very quickly and then turn it over to our moderator, Roy Bond. So Roy is Senior Director of Operations for Workforce and Advancement at Dallas College, which is one of the largest community colleges in the country. And Roy works with partners, employer partners, and really focuses on helping them implement upskilling and reskilling programs. He is a jack of many trades and is a very talented STEM practitioner, and actually has developed a national reputation as well. So I'm really excited to have Roy sort of be a panelist slash moderator. And the next person who you'll hear from is Martin Scaglione. Martin is somebody I've known for as long as we've been working at STEMconnector. Martin has a long career in industry and also is led the ACT Workforce Initiative when we met, and has been for the last several years been leading the Hope Street Group and has developed an initiative called Skilling America. I think Martin, you'll find, is as well informed on this issue as anybody out there. Next, we'll hear from Tracy Stone, who's the global leader for tech women at Intuit. And Tracy is really responsible for helping attract and retain a strong and robust workforce, so a female workforce at Intuit, which we all know Intuit, one of the leading brands in fintech. And then Brynt Parmenter from Walmart is Senior Director of Military and STEM Programs. Brynt is a veteran himself, and also going to share some of the other work that Walmart is doing around upskilling and reskilling to advance their workforce. So I will turn it over to you, Roy.
Thank you, Ted. I'd like to first of all welcome everyone to my bedroom. This is the general breakout bedroom. We have in the front hallway, we have all the breakout session bedrooms, and you'll be happy to know that at 5:30, we have a happy hour, back porch happy hour starting. So once again, thank you all. What we'd like to do today is have a brief discussion to provide an overview of how reskilling and upskilling can advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in today's STEM workforce. We're going to hear from members of the STEMconnector community who are deeply involved in different aspects of this work, including people from the employer side, from a leading national initiative, and then I'll be representing the post-secondary educator side. I can kick off the discussion talking a little bit about what we're doing at Dallas College with upskilling and reskilling, and we're actually upskilling and reskilling internally at the moment. We are becoming one college. For the last 54 years, Dallas College has been 7 separately accredited colleges, and we're now one college with 7 main campuses scattered all across the county of Dallas, Texas. We have about 130,000 students each year, and we really are reorienting the college to address this need for talent directly and work with employers. With all of our schools of, we're moving to a schools of model with career pathways, and each of the vice provosts of those schools are putting together teams as we speak that will really go out and work with business and industry and really delve in. You know, we're very labor market data intensive in our district. We have a huge labor market intelligence center. We constantly look at the labor market data to figure out what we need to be focusing on. And we don't just trust that data. We also go out and talk to employers and triangulate that information and make sure we know exactly what those skills are that are needed. And trying to move away from being, you know, academically minded, where we're talking about degrees and programs and someone's transcript that tells what classes they took, moving towards a model that is more based around skills with a skills transcript. So we would align skills within each degree program, and even on the non-credit side of the house with certificate programs that align with the skills in the marketplace, in the job market, and, you know, pulling information from resumes. So we're putting together some systems that will help us do that. But some of the things Abby mentioned earlier are things that we've really been looking at doing, and we're working with employers in our region and having conversations with them about the realities of the labor market right now, and the foreseeable future. Um, we have had a tendency, the Dallas area has been growing. We're importing somewhere from 250 to 400 people a day over the last few years into the Dallas area. A lot of those companies and people are coming from California, but you would think that's a great economic boom, but it actually has a tremendous downside in that there is a large segment of our population that is left on the sidelines because new companies come to town. They need high-end talent. They end up importing that talent. So that's why we have so many people moving to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And meanwhile, we have a huge population living at or below the poverty line, and typically those are traditionally underserved populations. And so we have to balance that, and we have to figure out how can we skill up our existing citizens, and get them ready to take these jobs. And the old model of skilling someone up and getting them through a 2-year or 4-year degree program and then sending them off to find a job, that's just not sustainable, and it doesn't help the company. It doesn't help our students. It doesn't help us. What we need to do, and what we're trying to do more and more of now, is partner directly with employers and assess their needs and have them tell us what skills need to be part of our programs. But let's go ahead and get people hired into entry level positions, get them a living wage where they can bring themselves and their family up out of poverty and become an economic benefit to the community that they're a part of. And then let's work with the employer to create programs, and programs that actually address what they need as we bring them on, get them into these jobs, and skill them up throughout their career. And the other thing about that is, we know that because there is the skills gap that we're faced with right now, that companies are seeing that retention is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. It's one thing to hire someone and money whip them and get them to move here from California, um, but if that's the only reason they're coming here, then you're probably going to lose them to someone else who's willing to pay them a little more. So we're trying to work with employers to help them see the need to invest in their workforce, invest in their upskilling throughout their career, so that they will create some loyalty. So we can do that through a number of different, we do it with direct pay where the company, funds the student's education through a Toyota Fame model or something like that. We have those going on. But we also do it where we leverage WIOA funding and other grant funding to bring people in and skill them up at no cost to the company. We also leverage the resources of the company, such as the talent they have, because we need faculty to teach these skills, and so we can sometimes get those from the company. So those are just a kind of a brief overview of some of the things that we're doing at Dallas College. So I would like to turn to the panel now, and we'll start with the question from Martin. Martin, I understand that Hope Street Group launched the Skilling America initiative as a professional society for the development of a resilient, transparent system that supports economic opportunity for all individuals. Can you talk about how Skilling America is helping employers rethink talent acquisition?
Yes, thank you, Roy, for the question. First of all, thanks, Joe, Ted, for having me today, and it's great to see some familiar faces. And thanks for, to the entire STEMconnector team for putting this together. Roy, the question about how employers can, be helped or gain help or solve for their problem it's an extremely complex question that actually has a very complex answer, and we don't have time, I think, for that today. I think what really needs to be understood is a little bit of context, for why Skilling America was formed and what it is intended to do to help not only just the employer, but also help those individuals that you were speaking about that are being left on the sideline. When I think about, ecosystems, and Abby spoke about one type of ecosystem with her Venn diagram. We think about the education system as a system, the workforce development industry, if you will, as a system, where a lot of adult learners exist, the economic development area as a system. You spoke about Dallas, Texas, and 200 to 300 people a day coming to the marketplace because it's a vibrant economy for many. Well, that's been stimulated by the economic developers, government and others. And then there's the employment system. And the reality is, through our research and what we studied going back 4 or 5 years ago, is that the signaling that exists across all 4 of those systems is weak. It's intermittent, it's weak, there's not a common language. And the reality is that in order to solve for what is really the problem, this idea of common understanding of what's necessary for success, it's very challenging as you're cutting across each of one of these systems. So with that said, what we studied was what were the various interventions. And what we found is that there are a lot of them. And people are creating new solutions, whether they be technologically driven or other forms of solutions that are addressing very specific systems and or within a system or a very specific symptom. So we talk about skills gap. Our view is that the skills gap is a symptom of a bigger problem, the bigger problem being the signaling. We then put up for a research study various industry working groups. We put up a retail opportunity network. Walmart was running the $100 million initiative, and we ran the retail opportunity network. We put up a teacher fellow network, a health pathways network, a manufacturing network. Why those 4 industries? Because they were the largest employment sectors in the United States. And what we watched were the dynamics between the stakeholders. These 4 complex systems that I spoke about not working in unison, the various parties that were participating. And we discovered something that became a major aha for us that we went forward and pursued. The major aha was that within each of the systems, there was a set of frontline workers who were the trusted agents of change. So in K-12, it was a high school, secondary K-12 teacher in the absence of a career counselor. They were the surrogate for helping students make career decisions. When we went into the employment system, the talent acquisition department was not the HR, but the talent acquisition department was actually serving a role of mentorship and development. Inside economic development, the commerce department was building economic initiatives, and that required talent and talent development. So it was ready for when new employers or when employers wanted to grow in their market, they had that talent ready system. And then you had this whole big workforce system where players like Goodwill, workforce boards, the community colleges were all participants. And there was a frontline trusted agent who was working with individuals. And rather than assume that those individuals, these agents across all 4 of those domains, had the tools and the knowledge to be successful, we assumed that maybe they did not. So we went out and we asked, and we tested new sets of knowledge, new sets of productivity tools to see if there was uniformity across all 4 of those systems, whereby the language could be common, centered around use of data, centered around coaching, centered around how to build stakeholder coalitions, and centered around leadership skills. And sure enough, our hypothesis was right. So we tested an online model called GoodPass with the Goodwill Industries, and it was a wild success. And from there, we've now launched skillingamerica.org, which is a service that's intended to provide for that frontline agent the most current, relevant knowledge that they can apply with their skills, and then eventually be bringing the right tools, productivity tools to them so they can be highly productive with their interventions. Kind of the bottom line on all of this is work transformation is underway. I don't think anyone on this call will deny that. To what level and what degree and how many jobs are going to change, there's plenty of research. Abby presented some from IBM, McKinsey has some, Brookings has some, it's out there. No one can deny, I don't think, that work transformation is underway. The question is, how can we expect the individual worker, the individual learner to know what to do if they don't already know today? It's going to get worse for them. And what do? We studied this. They turn to someone they trust. And the most underserved population, the lever that we have determined that can be pulled, is that frontline intermediary who's working across all of these agencies, who do not work on a set of standards, do not work on a uniform methodology, do not have a set of processes, or for that matter, a set of common tools that they can use to not only make their work more successful, to give them agency, but to help that individual that has the questions, what do I do next? That's career stuck, doesn't know where to turn. When they turn to that individual, if that individual can't help them, the situation gets exasperated. So Roy, back to your question, how do we help employers? We help the frontline agent be more successful with their clients. That's the answer, and that's what Skilling America is intended to do. We're a not-for-profit, public trust, and we're building this out today. And so far it's working extremely well. The data, the results, the metrics are all pointing to the theory of change was right. And so that's what we're doing. And thank you for asking the question, and thank you for letting me share it.
Thank you, Martin. That's great stuff, and it's nice to hear a scientific approach to addressing issues in the STEM disciplines. So thank you very much for that. I'd like to turn to Tracy now. Tracy, in your role at Intuit, you're charged with helping advance and retain women in technology. Can you speak to some of the efforts in that area, and what were some of the key ingredients to help advance these efforts early on?
Yeah, thank you, Roy, and thank you to Ted and the STEMconnector team for inviting me to be part of this this discussion today. I'm thrilled to be here. And so, yeah, I have a pretty unique role at Intuit. I am a technologist myself, have an engineering background, and worked in tech for many years. And now I'm in our CTO's organization. I report up through our CTO, and am running an initiative focused on how we attract and recruit, retain, and advance women technologists, and also underrepresented minorities. So it's sponsored and run as a strategic initiative, and I partner very closely with our diversity, equity, and inclusion team, the talent acquisition team, et cetera. But we're hosted within the technology organization. So I think that's really a unique opportunity to influence our tech leaders as they're defining, how we defining our talent and our plans for how we invest in our talent over time. So like I said, my initiative has the attract and recruit component of it, then the retain and advance, and it goes all the way from, what we do, where we work with organizations in the younger years. So how do we expose and inspire people to consider a STEM career, all the way up through once they're in college and choosing choosing their career path. And then all the way up through our executive levels. And so a couple of things I guess I would just highlight is we have a whole portfolio of programs in this area. And one of the things that we've invested in is we have looking at different sources of talent. And so, and something that Abby mentioned, we have a returnship program, a return to work program that we launched. So I think when people make the difficult choice to leave their careers, it's really hard to get back into the workforce, and really even that much harder in tech, where as this kind of one of the threads of this conversation is technology is changing rapidly. How do you stay current with your skills? And if you have this like break in your career, how do you feel that you can get back into the workforce and feel that you're valued? So we have a return to work program that we launched with some with a training component of it, as well as an on the job kind of supportive on ramp where you do some working with a team and you are partnering with them as you're getting back into your tech career. We've also looking at an apprenticeship program. So we're launching a pilot for an apprenticeship program. We've done some small pilots, but we're launching it more broadly across the company right now. So some of that is along the lines of how do we find or enable opportunities for talent that may have been overlooked before. And I think this really intersects with a lot of it is for women and underrepresented minorities who may not have had those opportunities in the past. So we look at that, and then we also have other development programs, formal development programs for our employees to help them keep their skills current, to also help with what we find is ensuring they have the mentorship and sponsorship, so those leaders who will invest in them and help them know, encourage them in terms of how they are developing their career, so that they can kind of continue to be develop their career and continue to keep their skills and kind of, I think, as technology is rapidly changing. So how do you continue to make yourself, build your capabilities and make yourself valuable? So we really invest in our employees and provide that support to them along the way. And that really hits along our other objectives of those retain. How do we retain our workforce and then develop them? And it's individually for whatever makes whatever is for their own individual development goals.
Thank you very much, Tracy. That sounds wonderful. I appreciate that point about engaging the employees in their own development and helping them see that their job is probably not going to stay the same throughout their career, and just having that mindset coming in is critical. I think we see that a lot. I'm in the process of developing a new department, and I'm hiring 19 employees over the next couple of weeks, and I didn't even put any specific duties in my job descriptions. All the things on everyone's job description, no matter what their role is, looks very much similar. It's all about collaboration. It's all about using metrics to ensure the performance in your function, and working together as a team to do that. Duties can be taught quickly and easily, but it's hard to get that mindset. So thank you very much. It sounds like you're doing wonderful work. I'm going to turn to Brynt now. Brynt, you and I have talked about some of these things on multiple occasions, but veterans are a highly trained segment of the nation's workforce, but they often struggle to translate their military experience into a job in the private sector. Can you share how Walmart is engaging veterans and helping them translate their skills from the military into skills that will enable them to thrive at Walmart?
Absolutely. Thanks, Roy. And it's great to see you again after a couple of years, and to the whole STEMconnector team, thanks for the opportunity to join the discussion from Walmart, and to the fellow panelists here. I think I was very fortunate to come to Walmart a little over a year ago. And what we were asked to do was think about how we were going to re-envision our strategy. And then COVID hit, and we really had to start re-envisioning our strategy. And we started to think about ways we could provide shared value opportunities in what we came up with that would benefit the rest of the business or other populations beyond veterans as approaches. And what we realized is we had very quantitative and transactional relationships with people. We were doing a good job of helping them find initial landing places or jobs. But what we weren't doing very well was helping people build runways to broader opportunities over time. And so what we wanted to do was, as we said, get more qualitative and get more relational. And this spring, we're going to launch what we're calling our Find a Future platform at Walmart. And it's fairly ambitious. It's mainly going to be a platform where we help engage with people at that pre-prospecting and prospecting stage, build a relationship with them, and do three things. And it ties right in with the reskilling and the upskilling methodology and approaches, where the first thing we want to be able to do is help lead people through a guided discussion of their current skills, experience, and education. Just where are you at now? And then have a discussion with them about what their opportunities are in the future, and help them curate that discussion through whatever their aspirations might be, aligned to what Walmart can offer to them in terms of landing places in the future, whether that's 6 months or 3 years or 6 years down the line, whatever they want to set as their stretch goal. And then we want to work with a range of third-party partners and those resources we have internally to help them build that roadmap between the two things. And we know there's lots of resources out there. Many of the partners on this call are among those resources. There's all kinds of things that we can do that are at low or no cost to individuals, and we have some internal to Walmart that we can use. And we think if you package all that up, you're truly helping people figure out what their futures are. You're giving them a sense of what that destination can be. You're giving them a sense of where they're at now and the pathway to get there. And then you just need to work through those conversations to give them that sense of self-efficacy or belief that that journey is for them. And so we're super excited about that with the veteran population. We're gonna, like I said, launch that in the spring of 2021 as a way to test drive it among the veteran population. So for people coming just directly out of the service, they can take a look at those skills to your specific question of where they're at now, but then go through that process to figure out that future. But then it's also good for people that have been out for 5 years, or it's good for anybody to go through this process, because our lives are generally, our adult lives on the professional level are generally a period of transitions. And that in essence is what we're trying to do, is help them think about the transitions in their life and how they upskill or reskill themselves and access those tools that they need to be successful in the future based off of what employers like us need.
All right, thank you very much, Brynt. I think we're going to turn to a audience question here. Just check the chat. Martin has a pilot returnship program. What are the key success factors for that program, and how do you measure them? Martin, you want to talk about that, the Lockheed program?
That was Lockheed Martin, Roy, for Tracy, actually.
Okay.
It was from Lockheed Martin, but asking about what are the metrics that Tracy's looking at and Intuit's looking at for key success factors in their program.
Got you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So one of the key success metrics for us, of course, is the conversion rate. So they have our returnees have a 6 month, 4 to 6 month returnship where they're working on their teams. And the idea is at the end of that, they would be offered an opportunity for a full-time role. And so we look at that, and that's really our goal. Our goal is to make them successful and to get to the point where they have an opportunity to integrate into the team as a full-time engineer. And so that's one of our key metrics. And so we work very closely with them and the team, and have points along the way for them to have feedback on how they are doing. For the team also, I think on the other side of it, the team, we had to do work for the teams to understand what a returnee was. It's like some of the teams are like, well, I know we've had college interns and we've had new hires that are, coming from a different company. What is this returnee and what are the expectations? And so helping them understand those expectations and to be able to support them in their journey as they're basically upskilling and returning to work. So we would have our really success metric is around our conversion rate was the ultimate one, but we had other measures too, and we would certainly check in with both the returnees and as well as the teams in terms of how they felt the program was going, and in terms of supporting the returnee success and integration and back into the workforce.
Okay, thank you very much. There was another question earlier about some of the themes that Abby covered in her report being somewhat obvious, and the question was, this seems like a no-brainer. Why have employers not been able to already do some of these things and overcome some of these barriers? Would anyone from the panel like to throw out some thoughts around that?
This is Brynt. I'll just jump in really quick and say we have two programs that we started over the past 4 years. One is the Academies program, where we've since had 2 million of our associates go through that program over the last 4 years. And it's meant for the frontline roles in our stores, our clubs, and then across our supply chain recently, where we're able to do some on-the-job upskilling and training to allow people to grow into their current roles, but then also meet those gates or badges that will let them achieve future roles. And then secondly, about 2 years ago, we started a program called Live Better You with the Guild Education Program. And we've since expanded that to not just 2- and 4-year degrees, but degree completion within high school level education or GED and credentialing. And what we've had since is about 25,000 people go through the program. We have the majority of them are women. We have about 40+% who are people of color. And most of the people going through it are in that range of about 35 to 45 years old. And so you're seeing this quantity of people that are accessing this element. And I really like what Abby said about education as a benefit. And we're seeing that piece to it. And then the other part is that it's self-paced, it's online. People can take 2 years to get a couple classes done or get the full degree done. And it meets people where they're at in their workforce. So we're got some good successes with that initially. We're proud of it, but we know there's a lot more work to do as that unfolds.
Thank you, Brynt. Great to hear about that program. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but we have Dallas College has just become part of the Guild Network starting this spring. We will be part of Guild Education. So starting with JP Morgan Chase in Dallas, but other companies that are part of the Guild Network will also have access to our curriculum. So thank you very much. Is someone else from the committee or the panel, sorry, want to address that same question? Okay, well, let's try a different question then. Have anyone want to tackle this one? How can employers help support community-based change to upskilling and reskilling that seems to be a critical component to success of this program?
Roy, this is Martin.
Yes.
I'll throw a few thoughts at that. Community-based change is extremely difficult because, as I mentioned before, all of these moving parts and pieces. And I think you cited an example of something that you're actually doing in your system, and that is the focus on the employer as your customer. That was my interpretation of your statement. I learned that concept. Ted mentioned I worked at ACT. That was an Iowa-based company. An employer as the customer, I actually learned from someone who's on this Zoom call today, and that's Rob Denson at Des Moines Area Community College. I had a conversation with him, and he said, I asked him one day, who's your customer? He says, it's the employer. He says, we're here to help the students be successful, and we want to make certain that the student actually has the great experience in learning, so that not only does the employer find the talent they need, we're building to a spec, that wasn't his words, my interpretation, but we're also ultimately enhancing the community. So in this context, what you're asking, actually it was the community college that was playing the key role as the community broker between the talent and the employer, and working with their funds, with their local municipalities, with their economic development. And it's interesting to me, Des Moines happens to be my hometown. It's no surprise that it has, even during a pandemic, the lowest unemployment and a vibrant economic growth engine in that community because of, I think, really what is a concept, an attitudinal set around all of the players and how they work in unison. So it isn't just one party stepping up and saying, I'm going to do this. It's actually an understanding of the system and how it works, and doing exactly what you stated about your organization from day one, is identifying who is that customer ultimately we're trying to solve for. If we solve for the talent needs of the employer, the truth is the talent's going to win as well. They will absolutely win. So that's a great community initiative. It works for everybody.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Martin. And you interpreted my comment correctly. We do see employers as our key customer. Although we're there to serve the students, and the students are at the forefront of everything we do, and they're the most important players in the mix, ultimately they're our product. And, you know, we have to make sure that we transform them so that they can transform their lives, which can then transform our community. So that's just the workflow for us. So thank you very much. Thank you, Tracy, Brynt, Martin. Appreciate all your comments and your time today. I'm going to throw it back to Ted so we can prepare for the next part of the day. Thank you very much.
Roy, thank you so much, and Martin, Brynt, and Tracy, thank you very much as well. Great job.